Are you in the market to buy a home here in Minnesota and Western Wisconsin? And you're curious, how much am I going to pay my realtor? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. My name is Travis Anderson. I'm a local realtor representing both buyers and sellers here in Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. Let's talk about buyers agents commission. In today's video, we're going to talk about buyers agents commissions here in Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. How much is that going to cost you as a buyer? We're going to talk about three main points. How did it used to work before the laws changed in August of 2024. Then we're going to go ahead and talk about what the laws did change since August of 2024. And then we're going to wrap that all together and talk about how it's going to affect you in your home buying journey here today. Let's talk about how commissions used to work. Before August of 2024, in both Minnesota and Western Wisconsin, a seller would meet with their listing agent and they would negotiate between the two parties. They would negotiate what the total commission package was going to be. And that would include the listing agent's commission and the buyer's agent's commission. And therefore, the buyer was never involved in the negotiation of their own agent's commission. That's how it used to work. And it worked pretty well for a very long time, at least since I've been in the industry in 2004. It was pretty simple. We could just tell our clients, hey, listen, the seller's going to pay my commission, and they've already negotiated that with the realtor. I'll disclose to you what that dollar amount is or percentage is, and then we'll just move forward with the purchase, and you don't have to worry about any negotiation. It was pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and yet it did change in August of 2024. The reason it changed in August of 2024 is there was a class action lawsuit across the country. It started in Missouri, and they had analyzed more than 30,000 transactions in the state of Missouri. And guess what? All of them had the exact same buyer's agent commission structure. That's not the case here in Minnesota and Western Wisconsin, but it still affected us. Commissions have always been negotiable here, at least since I've been in the industry. But it was a class action lawsuit, so it affected everyone in the country. And so we had to make changes as well here in Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. So what were the changes? The first thing that's changed is, as a buyer, you're going to have to sign a buyer's representation agreement before you can work with an agent to see real estate. Prior to 2024, you could call me up and I could show you real estate, no problem. And it wasn't against the ethics code. It wasn't against the law. I could work with you as what a customer was instead of as a client. While in today's industry, since August of 2024, I now have to have you hire me as your agent. And I'm going to have you review a couple of documents. Those documents are pretty straightforward. The first one is, what are your options as a consumer in real estate? And the second one is choosing me as your buyer's agent so we can go ahead and work in your best interests and show real estate. And in that document, we also talk about commissions, and we'll talk about those changes now. So the most common change to the commission today is, instead of the listing company negotiating with the listing agent what they're going to pay the buyer's agent, now the buyer's agent is negotiating in the purchase agreement what they're going to receive as compensation. Now, in my experience and over the last couple of years, sellers are still very aware that they're going to be paying a buyer's agent's commission in most cases. Now, it's always negotiable, but in most cases, they're feeling that pressure that they're going to be paying a buyer's agent's commission. If the market were to change drastically into a buyer's market, obviously that demand for that commission will increase and sellers will feel more pressure to pay that commission. Over the last couple of years, I've actually had 0 transactions, not a single transaction in 2024 and 2025, where the seller hasn't paid our commission as a buyer's agent. So practically speaking, how does this affect you? The first thing, of course, is reviewing those documents earlier than we normally would have to, which I think is a really good change in the industry. And then the second thing, regarding your costs, I don't think you're going to see a change. I don't think that you're going to expect to pay a commission. In most of the cases, I do think the sellers are still paying the commission, but the seller is not negotiating that with the listing agent up front. They're negotiating it with you and your buyer's agent at the time of purchase agreement. Now, there is a cost to you, the buyer, that most brokers are charging, and a broker would just be a real estate company. So we're talking about all of the big ones in town here: Keller Williams, Remax, Edina, Chris Lindahl, etc. All of these brokers are charging you, the buyer, what's called a broker administrative commission. And they're charging that on every single file. And that can vary from a couple $100 to, I've seen it, over $2,000. So you're going to have to check with your specific agent on what they're charging you. They're going to get the vast majority of the commission negotiated in the purchase agreement, and then they're going to charge you a broker administrative commission, again, in the amount of a couple $100. Again, I've seen it all the way up to a couple $1,000. If you're curious to learn more about the home buying process here in Minnesota and Western Wisconsin, check out the description. I've got a free download for you. It's a home buyer's guide. Hopefully that'll help you. Thanks for checking out this video where we talked about commissions, what it was before, what the change was, and what the change is for you moving into the future, what you can expect when you're buying your next home. My name's Travis Anderson. I work with both buyers and sellers here in Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. Do me a favor, if you've got any questions, give me a call, shoot me a text, hit me up in the comments section. And as always, all my best to you and yours.